The Crystal Dragon Ribcage had crushed 3 false princesses before dawn. That was why the court made Serelle Aven sleep beneath it. They did not chain her to a wall. They did not drag her to a blade. They laid her on a bed of black stone beneath the curved crystal bones of an ancient dragon and called it mercy. If her royal dreams were true, the ribcage would remain still until sunrise. If her blood was false, the bones would lower one by one through the night and press the lie out of her body before the first bell. The court loved punishments that looked like rituals. Serelle lay very still. Above her, the ribcage arched like a cathedral made of frozen moonlight. Each bone was taller than a man, transparent but veined with pale blue fire. The lowest ribs hovered only a hand's width above her chest. When the braziers flickered, the crystal seemed to move, though everyone insisted it had not breathed in 200 years. Around her, the dream hall glittered with cold beauty. Black marble, silver banners, dragon statues with sleeping eyes, high windows cut into the eastern wall so dawn could witness judgment. The nobles stood in a half-circle, wrapped in velvet and cruelty. They had come to see whether the unwanted royal ward would finally be proven a lie. Lord Varric stood nearest the ribcage, one hand resting on a crystal-tipped staff. He was tall, silver-haired, and elegant in dark court robes threaded with blue glass. His face held the soft sorrow of a man who enjoyed making cruelty sound regrettable. "Serelle Aven," he said, "ward of the late Queen Merith's line, accused of false dream, blood, forbidden sleepwalking, and attempting to claim royal memory not granted by the throne. You will rest beneath the Crystal Dragon Ribcage until dawn." Rest. Serelle almost laughed. She did not. Girls like her survived by keeping their laughter buried deeper than fear. Lord Varric continued, "If your dreams are pure, the bones will not move." "And if they move?" Serelle asked. The court murmured. She had not been expected to speak. Lord Varric's expression did not change. "Then the kingdom will know your dreams were never yours." Serelle turned her face slightly toward him. "And dead girls cannot disagree." A sharp silence cut the hall. Several nobles looked away, not because her words were rude, but because they were true enough to be dangerous. 3 girls had died under the ribcage in the last 10 years. All of them had been accused of false royal dreaming. All of them had claimed before death that they saw memories of old dragon queens, hidden heirs, and a sleeping beast beneath the palace. By morning, their bodies were crushed, and their names were removed from the dream registry. False princesses, the council called them. Serelle had known one. Mira of the West Nursery, who used to trade her stolen honey cakes for Serelle's candle stubs. Mira had been 16 when the ribcage lowered over her. By dawn, the court declared her blood dishonest and her dreams unstable. Serelle had never forgotten the bruise-shaped shadows on the crystal bones afterward. Lord Varric leaned closer. "Careful, child. The ribcage dislikes bitterness." "No," Serelle said softly. "It dislikes witnesses." Something above her clicked. One crystal rib trembled. Only once. The court froze. Then the movement stopped. Lord Varric's fingers tightened around his staff. "Begin the watch." At the far end of the dream hall, Dragon King Cael Veyr sat on a throne of dark glass and blue fire. He had not spoken since Serelle was brought in. That silence hurt more than she wanted it to. Cael was feared across the Ash Kingdoms as a dragon king without a dragon. His body carried the royal fire. His command could bend armies. His eyes burned ember gold in shadow. But the dragon spirit, that should have risen behind every Veyr monarch, had been asleep since his coronation. The court called it grief. His enemies called it weakness. Serelle had heard another rumor, whispered in servant corridors, that the king's dragon dreamed, but would not wake, as if waiting for someone who had never arrived. Cael watched her now with a face like carved obsidian. Not pity, not belief. Attention, that was worse. Pity allowed distance. Attention had weight. Serelle looked away first. She had been raised in the palace as Queen Merith's forgotten ward, though no one would say why the dead queen had kept her close. Her room was not a room, but an old seamstress chamber below the east stairs. She wore cast-off gowns and ate after the ladies finished. When she dreamed aloud as a child of crystal bones, dragon breath beneath the floor, a woman singing inside blue fire, the court healers told her dreams were echoes she had stolen from royal blood. Stolen, as if dreams were jewels, as if memory obeyed locks. Now, after the third dream she had spoken in her sleep, the council had brought her here, beneath the relic that crushed false royal dreams. A priestess stepped forward with a silver bowl. Dream salt. Serelle's mouth went dry. The priestess dipped 2 fingers into the bowl and touched salt to Serelle's eyelids. Cold stabbed through her skull. Dream salt forced sleep quickly. Worse, it pulled buried dreams upward, whether the dreamer wanted them seen or not. Serelle fought the heaviness, settling behind her eyes. Lord Varric smiled faintly. Do not resist. Truth is gentler when welcomed. Then why does yours need salt? She whispered. The priestess flinched. Cael's hand moved on the arm of his throne. Small, but Serelle saw it. So did Varric. The council lord turned toward the king. Majesty, the ritual requires silence. Cael's eyes remained on Serelle. Does it? Varric bowed. The ribcage listens for royal dreams. Interference risks false movement. Convenient, Cael said. The single word made the nobles go still. For one impossible moment, Serelle thought he might stop the ritual. Then the ribcage gave a low crystal hum. Cael's face changed. Pain crossed it too quickly for most of the court to read. Serelle read it because Pain had been her tutor longer than any courtmaster. The sleeping dragon inside him had heard the bones. Lord Varric stepped closer to the ribcage. Sleep, child. The dream salt dragged Serelle under. The hall blurred. The nobles became shadows. The crystal ribs above her widened and narrowed with each panicked breath she took. She tried to hold herself awake, but sleep rose like dark water. Just before it swallowed her, she heard Cael's voice. Low. Dangerous. If the bones move before dawn, no one touches her until I command it. Lord Varric answered smoothly. Of course, Majesty. But his staff tip glowed blue, and hidden under the glow, a small crystal thorn slid from the staff and pointed toward the lowest rib. Serelle's eyes closed. The dream took her. She stood inside a palace made of sleeping fire. Beneath her bare feet, the floor breathed. A dragon's heart beat far below, slow and lonely. In the distance, a woman sang in a language Serelle had never learned and somehow understood. Dream rib child. Serelle turned. A giant crystal dragon lay curled around a cradle of blue flame. Its ribs were open, not to crush, but to shelter. Inside the cradle, a baby slept with a silver mark shaped like a tiny rib beneath her collarbone. The woman's song stopped. Wake what they made sleep, she whispered. Serelle gasped awake. The dream hall had not changed. Not at first. The nobles still watched. Varric still stood with his glowing staff. Cael still sat rigid on the throne. Then the crystal rib above Serelle's heart expanded. 1 inch. The entire hall heard it breathe. Blue fire spread through the palace floor, and somewhere inside Dragon King Cael Veyr, his sleeping dragon opened one eye. The crystal rib above Serelle's heart expanded again. 1 inch. Then another. The dream hall forgot how to breathe with it. Blue fire ran through the black marble floor in thin veins, spreading from beneath the ribcage toward the throne. It did not burn the stone. It moved under it, as if the palace had a sleeping body, and someone had touched the wrong nerve. Serelle lay frozen beneath the crystal bones. The lowest rib hovered above her chest, no longer pressing down. It had lifted. Not much. Just enough to make every noble understand the relic had not accepted her as false. It had made room. Lord Varric's staff glowed brighter. "The dream salt has agitated her blood," he said quickly. "False dreamers often cause surface movement before collapse." Serelle turned her head toward him. Her body felt heavy from the salt. Her eyelids burned, but the dream still clung to her skin. The crystal dragon curled around a blue flame cradle, the woman's voice whispering, "Wake, what they made, sleep." "That is not what happened to Mira," she said. The name struck the hall like a dropped blade. Varric's mouth tightened. Mira's blood failed. "No," Serelle whispered. "The ribcage crushed her after your staff touched it." A hiss moved through the nobles. Varric's hand closed harder around the crystal-tipped staff. At the throne, Cael rose. Slowly. The blue fire beneath the floor brightened toward him, reaching in thin lines like veins searching for a heart. His face stayed controlled, but his eyes had changed. Ember gold sharpened into something older, brighter, more awake. Behind him, for one breath, the air bent. Not a dragon form. Not yet. A shadow of one. A vast, sleeping shape stirred behind his shoulders, then vanished as quickly as it appeared. Serelle saw Varric see it. Fear crossed the council lord's face, only for a heartbeat. Then he lifted his staff. "Majesty, stay back. The ribcage is entering judgment." Cael's voice was quiet. It breathed. "The relic can imitate life when exposed to corrupt dream blood. Can it?" The room tightened around the question. Varric bowed, but his staff remained raised. "This is why the rite requires distance." Cael stepped down from the throne. The blue fire on the floor followed. Serelle's heart pounded hard enough that she feared the ribcage would hear it and decide she was only afraid. Not true. She wanted to sit up, but the dream salt held her limbs in a soft, cruel numbness. The rib above her moved again. This time, the whole crystal structure answered. Ribs widened in a slow circle over her body, not like a cage opening, but like lungs taking in air. The sound that followed was deep, hollow, and almost animal. A breath. The nobles backed away. Someone whispered a prayer. Someone else said, "It has never done that." Varric snapped. Silence. The ribcage exhaled. Blue flame spilled from between the crystal bones and sank into the palace floor. It flowed toward Cael's boots, circled him once, then vanished under the throne dais. Cael stopped. His hand went to his chest. Pain moved through him. Quick and violent. Serelle felt it in her own ribs. A dragon turning in sleep. Not hers. His. The connection terrified her. Cael looked at her, as if he had felt the same thing. For the first time, the Dragon King's control cracked enough for awe to show beneath suspicion. "What did you dream?" he asked. Varric stepped forward. "Majesty." Cael did not raise his voice. "I asked her." Serelle swallowed. Every eye in the hall turned to her. The crystal ribs above her glowed brighter, painting her skin in blue-white light. "I saw a palace made of sleeping fire," she said. A dragon curled around a cradle. Its ribs were open. The ribcage hummed. Cael's face went still. Serelle forced the rest out. A woman said, "Wake what they made sleep." The sleeping shadow behind Cael stirred again. This time, the entire court saw its outline. Wings folded tight, horned head lowered, enormous body wrapped around something unseen. It appeared only in blue firelight, then faded. The nobles cried out. Varric's staff struck the floor. The shadow vanished. Cael staggered half a step. Serelle gasped as pain tightened around her own ribs, as if the strike had hit the dream inside her body. The ribcage lowered suddenly. Not enough to crush, enough to warn. Cael's head snapped toward Varric. "What did you do?" "Protected the hall," Varric said. "That apparition was not your dragon. It was her dream trying to wear your blood." Serelle's breath caught. There it was. The same accusation used against every girl before her. False dream. Stolen royal memory. Dangerous blood. Cael looked down at her. Suspicion returned. but not cleanly. It fought with something else now. Recognition, fear, and a hunger he did not want the court to see. "Can you make it appear again?" he asked. "No," Serelle said honestly. Varric sees the answer. There. She cannot control the falsehood. Serelle turned her face toward the crystal ribs. "I did not make it appear." The rib above her warmed. It answered. The blue fire beneath the floor pulsed once. Cael took another step toward her. Varric moved between them. "Majesty, if you approach while the ribcage is in active judgment, it may bind your sleeping dragon to her false dream." Cael's jaw tightened. That warning struck where it was meant to. Everyone in the kingdom knew Cael's hidden wound. A dragon king whose dragon did not wake was a king ruling with half a crown. If the court believed Serelle could endanger even that sleeping half, they would demand her death before dawn. Serelle saw the moment pressure wrapped around him. The king could defend her and look desperate for his dragon, or condemn her and stay safe behind silence. She did not ask him to choose. Not yet. Instead, she lifted one numb hand and pressed her fingers to the nearest crystal rib. The bone was warm, alive warm. A memory surged through it, but Serelle held back from falling fully into the dream. She caught only a fragment. A woman with silver hair bending over a child. A dragon's open ribs sheltering two bloodlines. Varric's younger face watching from behind a blue glass screen. Serelle whispered, "He knows." The ribcage stilled. Varric's eyes narrowed. "Who knows what?" Serelle looked at him. "You know why it opened." The hall went dead, silent. Varric's expression softened into pity. "Dream salt causes confusion." "No." Serelle's voice shook, but the rib beneath her fingers steadied it. "You were there when the first dream bond was cut." The crystal staff in Varric's hand cracked. A tiny line, almost invisible, but Cael saw it. Blue fire climbed the ribcage. Varric stepped back. "This rite is corrupted. The ward must be removed before the ribcage breaks." "Removed?" Cael asked. The word was quiet. Varric did not answer quickly enough. The crystal rib above Serelle's heart rose higher. Then every bone in the ribcage expanded at once, arching over her body like a living dragon waking from centuries of stillness. The dream hall floor split with blue light. From beneath the palace came a sound no one had heard in Cael's reign. A dragon's heartbeat. And it beat in time with Serelle's. The dragon's heartbeat rose from beneath the palace floor. One beat, then another. Slow, ancient, and impossible to mistake. Every flame in the dream hall bent toward the sound. The silver banners trembled. The dragon statues along the walls cracked open their sleeping eyes, though no sculptor had carved pupils into them. Blue light spread beneath the black marble in pulsing veins, all moving outward from the Crystal Dragon Ribcage and inward toward Dragon King Cael Veyr. Serelle lay beneath the widening bones with her hand still pressed to the nearest rib. The heartbeat matched hers, not perfectly, not gently, like an old drum remembering a song through a living chest. Cael felt it too. She saw it in the way he stopped breathing for one sharp moment. One hand pressed against the armor over his heart. Behind him, the sleeping dragon shadow appeared again, clearer than before. Vast wings folded tight, horned head lowered. One burning eye still closed. The other had opened. The court fell into panic. "Majesty, move away from her. She is binding the dragon. The ribcage is waking. False dream. Blood." Varric struck his staff against the floor again, but this time the blue fire did not vanish. It flared. The cracked crystal at the tip of his staff spat sparks, and the ribcage above Serelle gave a low, animal sound. Not anger. Recognition. Cael turned toward Varric. "Your staff hurts it." Varric's expression sharpened. "It restrains it. Why would a relic of judgment need restraining? Because corrupted dream. Blood can wake what should remain asleep." Serelle laughed once. It came out weak and breathless, but the sound cut through the hall. "Should," she whispered. That word again. Varric looked down at her. You are under judgment, child. Do not mistake movement for innocence. Serelle's fingers tightened on the rib. I am not innocent, because it moves. I am alive, because it lifted. The ribcage breathed again. Blue fire passed over her skin without burning. It sank into her collarbone, and for one instant a silver mark appeared beneath her dress, near the hollow of her throat, small, curved, shaped like the inner arc of a dragon rib. Cael saw it. So did Varric. The council lord went still. Serelle knew that stillness. It was not confusion. It was recognition dressed too late as fear. Cael descended another step from the dais. What is that mark? Varric answered first. Dream. Salt reaction. Cael did not look at him. I asked her. Serelle swallowed. The mark had faded, but warmth remained beneath her skin. I don't know. That was true. And yet the rib beneath her hand pulsed as if it knew for her. The dream tried to pull her under again. She resisted. Not because she did not want the truth, because every girl before her had been drowned in dream and then accused of madness. If she let the vision take everything, Varric would call it proof. She needed one fragment, one witness, one truth the court could not smother. The crystal rib warmed against her palm. A memory opened. A nursery chamber washed in blue dawn. A woman with silver hair sang beside a cradle of crystal light. Not Serelle's mother, she knew that somehow, but blood of her blood, old and royal. A black dragon slept on the floor beside the cradle, its head lowered protectively near a baby wrapped in pale cloth. Then a young boy entered. Jael. Not king yet. Only a child with solemn ember gold eyes. He reached toward the sleeping dragon, but the beast did not wake for him. Instead, the dragon's breath moved toward the baby in the cradle, and the crystal ribs around the room glowed. A man watched from behind a blue glass screen. Varric, younger, smiling without warmth. The memory snapped shut. Serelle gasped. Cael was suddenly closer. What did you see? She looked at him, dizzy with dream salt and fear. You as a child. The hull quieted. Cael's face did not change, but his eyes did. Where? A nursery. Blue dawn. A dragon sleeping beside a cradle. His voice lowered. There was no dragon in my nursery. The ribcage hummed. Serelle whispered. There was. Varric stepped between them again. Majesty, she is building a false memory from court rumor. Cael's gaze cut to him. That nursery was sealed when I was 6. Varric's mouth closed. Too late. The court heard it. Serelle felt the ribcage breathe faster above her. Cael's dragon shadow opened its one visible eye wider. The sleeping beast behind him seemed to sniff the air, not with a nose but with memory. Its attention moved from Cael to Serelle and back again, confused, starving, almost afraid. Serelle understood then with a sudden ache. The dragon was not rejecting him. It was lost inside the wrong dream. Cael turned toward her, and for the first time his voice held something close to need. Can you find that memory again? Varric's staff lifted. Majesty enough. Cael did not step back. Lower the staff. My duty is to protect your dragon from false dream. Blood. My dragon has been asleep for 12 years under your protection. The hall went cold. Varric's face hardened. For one heartbeat, the sorrowful mask disappeared, and Serelle saw the man beneath it. Not cruel for pleasure, but cruel for preservation. A man who would bury a kingdom's truth if the lie kept the throne simple. Then he smiled faintly. You are tired, Majesty. The waking strain has already begun. He turned to the priestess. Increase the dream salt. Serelle's blood chill. No. The priestess hesitated, bowl in hand. Varric's voice sharpened. The ward is resisting judgment. Cael moved. Blue fire flashed under his boots as he crossed the space between throne and ribcage. The guards reached for swords, then stopped because every crystal rib turned toward them with a sound like drawn breath. Cael stood over Serelle, just outside the arching bones. "No more salt," he said. The priestess lowered the bowl. Varric's eyes narrowed. If she sleeps naturally, she may control what the relic shows. "Good," Cael said. The court stared. "Serelle staretu." Cael looked down at her. "Can you stay awake?" Her mouth was dry. Her limbs still felt heavy, but the ribcage had lifted, not crushed. The dragon beneath the palace had answered her heart, and for the first time in years, someone powerful had stopped the court from pouring more poison into her dreams. "I can try," she said. Cael's jaw tightened. "That is enough." Varric's staff cracked louder, not from breaking, from opening. A thin blue thorn slid from its crystal tip, the same kind Serelle had seen before sleep took her. It pointed not at the ribcage this time, at Cael. Serelle saw it before anyone else. "Behind you," she whispered. Cael turned too late. Varric drove the blue thorn into the floor. The dream hall flashed white. Cael dropped to one knee, as if the thorn had pierced his chest. Behind him, the half-waking dragon shadow convulsed, chains of blue glass appearing around its throat and wings. The ribcage above Serelle slammed downward, not to crush her, to shield her. Crystal bones struck the floor on both sides of her body, forming a cage between her and the council. Varric's voice rang through the hall. "Now you see it. Her dream has attacked the king." Serelle reached through the crystal ribs toward Cael, but the bones held her back. The palace floor split with blue fire, and beneath the dream hall, the sleeping dragon began to roar. The sleeping dragon roared beneath the dream hall. The sound did not come through the air. It came through the stone. Every pillar shook from its foundation. Blue fire split the black marble in branching lines, running beneath the court's feet like veins under skin. The nobles cried out and stumbled backward. Dragon statues cracked open their crystal eyes. Silver banners snapped in a wind no window had allowed inside. Serelle lay trapped beneath the Crystal Dragon Ribcage as its bones struck the floor around her. But they did not crush her. They formed a shield. The lowest ribs curved over her body, bright with pale blue fire, each crystal bone widening and narrowing, as if the ancient dragon skeleton were breathing for her. Through the gaps, she saw Cael on one knee, one hand pressed to the floor, his dark armor lit from beneath by the fire racing through the palace. Behind him, his dragon shadow writhed. Blue glass chains had appeared around its throat, wings, and chest. The beast was enormous, black as a sleeping eclipse, with one ember eye open and filled with pain. It was not attacking the king. It was being dragged backward into sleep. Varric stood behind Cael, with the cracked staff in both hands. The blue thorn he had driven into the floor pulsed like a second heartbeat. "Now you see it," Varric said, voice ringing above the chaos. "The ward's dream has infected the king's dragon." The court turned toward Serelle. Fear moved faster than truth. "She is binding him. She woke it wrong. False dream. Blood. Kill her before the beast breaks loose." Serelle pressed her palms against the crystal ribs, trying to rise. The bones held her down not cruelly, but firmly, like a creature refusing to let a wounded child run into arrows. "I didn't do this," she said. Her voice almost vanished beneath the roaring floor. Cael lifted his head. Even through pain, he heard. His ember gold eyes found hers through the ribs. For one breath, the whole hall narrowed to that look. Suspicion, pain, fear, and something harsher than all of them, choice. Varric saw it too. "Majesty," he said, softer now, more dangerous. "If you defend her, the court will believe your judgment is compromised by the dream." Link she forced. Cael's jaw tightened. The dragon shadow behind him strained against the glass chains, one wing jerking open, then slamming shut as blue fire wrapped around it. Serelle felt the pain in her own ribs. Not because she controlled the dragon, because the ribcage remembered what pain had been done to it. She turned her face to the nearest crystal bone. Show him. The rib warmed beneath her hand. A dream opened. Not fully. Not enough for Varric to call it madness. Just one narrow memory across the crystal surface. Cael as a boy in a sealed nursery. He stood before a sleeping black dragon, reaching toward it with both hands. The dragon did not reject him. It lifted its head slightly, trying to wake. Then Varric entered with a blue glass chain coiled around his wrist. "You are not ready for that dream," younger Varric said. The child, Cael, looked frightened. "It called someone else first," Varric smiled. "Then we will teach it to forget." The chain flashed. The dragon collapsed. The memory vanished. The dream hall went silent, except for the dragon roaring beneath the floor. Cael stared at Varric. The council lord's face remained calm, but the staff in his hands trembled. "You chained it," Cael said. Varric bowed his head. "I protected your reign. You chained my dragon when I was a child. I prevented the court from learning that the royal beast would not wake first for its king." The words struck the hall like ice. Serelle's breath caught. There it was. Not the full truth, but the shape of it. Cael's dragon had not been asleep because it lacked strength. It had been forced to forget the first dream call it answered, and that call had not been his. Varric turned toward the nobles before Cael could speak. "You hear the danger." The dragon recognized another dream before the king's. If that dream belongs to the ward, then she is not a victim. She is a rival claim to the dragon itself. Serelle's stomach turned. Again the same trap. If she mattered to the dragon, she was dangerous. If she did not matter, she was false. Cael rose slowly. Blue glass chains tightened around his dragon shadow as he stood. Pain crossed his face, but he did not kneel again. "Release it," he said. Varric's voice cooled. "I cannot." "Cannot? Will not." The court recoiled. Varric's mask had slipped too far to retrieve. He lifted the staff, and the blue thorn in the floor brightened. The chains around the dragon shadow pulled tighter. Cael staggered, but stayed upright. Serelle slammed one hand against the crystal rib. "Stop," the ribcage answered. The bones expanded outward, pushing against the floor. Blue fire leapt from rib to rib, then down into the cracks beneath Cael. The fire did not attack the chains. It lit them. Every link became visible. And on each link, the court saw names carved in blue glass. Mira, Lusa, Aven, Merith, Serelle, the dead false princesses, the forgotten queen's line. Serelle's name had already been placed on a chain. Before judgment ended, before dawn, before proof. The court saw it. Cael saw it. Varric went pale. Serelle whispered, "You were going to add me, whether I passed or not." The ribcage breathed harder. The crystal bones above her no longer looked like a cage. They looked like a dragon, arching its body over the last dream it refused to lose. Cael's voice changed. Not louder, colder. "Varric." The council lord stepped back. "Majesty, if the dream rib line is restored, your dragon bond becomes secondary." Cael moved toward him. Every step cost him. The chains around his dragon shadow dragged through his body, but he kept walking. "My dragon bond is already a prison if it depends on dead girls staying silent." Varric's staff cracked again. This time, the crystal tip split open. Inside was not blue fire. It was a tiny sleeping ember shaped like a dragon eye. Serelle felt the ribcage recoil. Cael stopped. "What is that?" he demanded. Varric's hand tightened. "The last clean dream of the throne." "No," Serelle said. The word came from somewhere deeper than fear. The crystal rib under her hand pulsed. "That is not clean." The tiny ember opened. A dream rushed through the hall. A baby wrapped in pale cloth beneath the Crystal Dragon Ribcage. Queen Merith bending over her, tears on her face. Cael's sleeping dragon lowering its head to the child first, not to take the throne, not to replace the king, but to breathe into the baby's dreams. Then Varric's hand reaching in. The ember vanished into his staff. The baby's eyes opened. Serelle's eyes. The memory broke. The hall went utterly still. Cael looked at Serelle as if the world had tilted beneath him. Varric's voice came low and desperate. If she wakes the dragon fully, it will remember who it dreamed first. The ribcage rose above Serelle like wings, and from beneath her collarbone, the silver dream rib mark burned through her skin. The dream rib mark burned through Serelle's skin. Silver light spread beneath her collarbone in the shape of a curved dragon rib, small at first, then bright enough to shine through the thin white cloth of her punishment gown. The crystal bones above her answered with a deep pulse. Not judgment, not hunger, recognition. The dream hall stared. No one spoke. No one knew how to speak. When a relic built to crush false royal dreams had risen like a living dragon to shield the girl it was supposed to kill. Serelle pressed one hand over the mark. It did not hurt like fire. It hurt like memory, returning to a place scarred by absence. Her breath shook, and with it, the ribcage breathed. Each inhale lifted blue light from the palace floor. Each exhale sent it spreading toward Cael's chained dragon shadow. The beast behind him trembled, still bound, still half asleep, but watching her now with one ember eye, Lord Varric's staff shook in his hand. The tiny dragon eye ember inside its cracked crystal tip blinked once, and the ribcage above Serelle gave a low warning hum. Cael's gaze moved from the staff to Serelle's glowing mark. You took that dream from her. Varric's face tightened. I preserved the crown. You took it when she was an infant. I sealed an unstable bond before it destroyed your reign. Cael stepped closer, and the blue glass chains around his dragon shadow dragged tighter. Pain crossed his face, but he did not stop. You stole my dragon's first dream. Varric's voice sharpened. Your dragon should never have dreamed her first. The hall inhaled. There it was. The truth. Spoken by accident because fear had outrun caution. Serelle looked at the dragon shadow behind Cael. It was not choosing a queen over a king. The words came before she understood them. The ribcage warmed above her, as if approving. It was guarding a dream. Bond. Cael turned to her. Serelle swallowed. In the memory, your dragon lowered its head to the baby. It did not bow. It breathed, like it was keeping something alive. Varric stepped forward. A convenient interpretation. Serelle looked at him through the crystal ribs. Then show the full memory. The court went still. Varric's mouth thinned. Cael's eyes cut toward him. Yes, show it. I do not answer to a ward under judgment. Cael's voice dropped. You answer to your king. Varric's hand tightened around the staff. The dragon eye ember inside it flared. Then hear your king's danger. If the dream, ribline, returns, every dragon memory sealed under your throne may answer her before it answers you. Every battle dream, every coronation dream, every royal fire oath. Your beast has slept because I kept it from humiliating you before the court. Serelle felt the old wound beneath his words. Not only power, shame. He had taught a king to fear the order in which a dragon dreamed. Cael said nothing. That silence frightened Serelle. Not because she thought he believed Varric fully, but because part of him hurt where the lie had lived longest. A dragon king, whose dragon dreamed another bloodline first. A ruler raised under a crown that may have been kept whole by stolen sleep. Varric saw the hesitation. His voice softened. Majesty, I did what Queen Mareth could not. She loved the dream. Bloodline too much to see its danger. I chose the kingdom. The ribcage snapped. One crystal bone struck the floor so hard a crack split the marble beside Varric's boot. Serelle gasped as another memory flashed across the rib's surface. Queen Mareth standing beside the ribcage years ago, silver hair undone, one hand pressed to the crystal bone, while an infant slept beneath it. Not punishment, then. Protection, the queen whispered. She is not a rival dream. She is the bridge. The image vanished. Serelle whispered. Bridge, Cael heard. So did the dragon shadow. The blue glass chains around its throat shuddered. Varric struck the staff down before the memory could return. Blue light burst across the floor. The ribcage dipped over Serelle, shielding her again, but one shard of pain cut through the mark beneath her collarbone. She cried out. Cael moved. This time, no chain stopped him. He crossed the broken marble and seized Varric's staff with one hand. The dragon eye ember inside the crystal tip widened. Cael went rigid. A dream attacked him. Serelle saw it through the ribcage. Cael as a child, standing before council lords. Varric beside him, everyone watching while the sleeping dragon refused to rise. Shame like a blade. Whispered doubt. A crown too heavy for a boy. Varric leaning close and saying, Let me help you make it sleep properly. Cael's fingers tightened on the staff until blood ran from his palm. Varric whispered, You needed me. No, Cael said. His voice was strained, but clear. I needed the truth. The staff cracked down the center. The tiny dragon eye ember leapt free. It shot toward the ribcage. Varric shouted, Do not let it reach her. The guards moved. Too late. The ember passed between the crystal ribs and hovered above Serelle's glowing mark. It did not burn her. It settled into the silver curve beneath her collarbone, like a missing pupil returning to an eye. The ribcage inhaled. The entire palace floor rose with that breath. Blue fire swept across the dream hall and formed a vision so vast no one could look away. The court saw Queen Marith kneeling before the Crystal Dragon Ribcage with infant Serelle in her arms. Cael, still a boy, stood beside her, frightened and proud. Behind him slept the royal dragon, not weak, not broken, but curled around both children in a dream neither bloodline owned alone. Marith spoke to young Cael. Your dragon dreams her first because her blood keeps the old memories from devouring yours. A Veyr carries fire. A dream. Rib carries what fire remembers. Young Cael asked, Then she is not taking it from me? The queen smiled sadly. No. She is keeping it alive until you are old enough to share the sky. The vision shifted. Varric watching from behind the blue glass screen, face cold with fear. A council lord whispered, If the king needs a ward's bloodline to wake his dragon, the houses will call him half-crowned. Varric answered, Then the ward must become false. The vision shattered. The dream hall stood silent. Serelle could barely breathe. Cael looked at her through the ribs, and this time there was no suspicion left. Only grief, awe, and the terrible weight of what had been stolen from both of them. Varric stepped back. A pretty memory proves nothing. The ribcage turned. All its crystal bones angled toward him. Serelle's mark burned brighter. Then why, she asked, did you put my name on the chain before the ritual ended? The nobles looked toward the blue glass chains, still wrapped around Cael's dragon shadow. Serelle, Mira, Luisa, Marith, Aven. Every name glowed there. Varric's silence condemned him before he spoke. Cael released the broken staff. It fell in 2 pieces at his feet. Remove him from the ritual. The guards hesitated. Varric smiled faintly. That was when Serelle understood he had expected this. The council lord lifted both hands. Every blue glass chain around the dragon shadow tightened at once. Cael staggered. The sleeping dragon roared in pain beneath the palace. Varric's voice rang through the hall. If I fall, Majesty, your dragon sleeps forever. The crystal dragon ribcage lowered around Serelle, not to crush her, but to carry her deeper into the dream. And beneath the palace, the dragon's heartbeat began to fade. The dragon's heartbeat began to fade. Not stop. Fade. That was worse. A heart that stopped could be mourned. A heart that faded made the whole world lean closer, begging the next beat to come. The blue fire beneath the dream hall dimmed in thin waves. The dragon statues lowered their crystal eyes. The The great shadow behind Cael folded inward as the glass chains tightened around its throat, wings, and chest. Cael staggered but did not fall. Varric smiled through the breaking light. "You see, Majesty, I have held your dragon in balance for years. Remove me, and the beast sinks beyond waking." Serelle felt the ribcage move beneath her. The crystal bones did not lower to crush. They widened, then sank through the floor as if the black marble were water. The bed of stone beneath her dissolved into blue flame. For one dizzy breath, the dream hall stretched above her like a ceiling seen from under ice. She was being pulled down, not into death, into the dragon's sleep. Cael moved toward her. Serelle. The sound of her name cut through the dream salt, still clinging to her blood. She reached toward him through the ribs, but the crystal bones had become a cage of light around her body. Varric's voice struck the hall. "Do not follow her. If the king enters the dream before the chains are removed, the dragon will mistake him for the wound." Serelle looked at Cael. She saw the trap close around him. If he stayed, she might vanish inside the dream alone. If he followed, Varric would blame her when the dragon broke or slept forever. Every path had been shaped to make her cost him something. Cael's jaw tightened. Then he stepped onto the blue fire. The court gasped. Varric's face changed. "Majesty." Cael did not look at him. "You have named fear as wisdom for too long. The dragon will not survive your sentiment. Then it will die knowing I did not abandon the one person it tried to remember." The crystal ribcage breathed. Serelle's chest tightened. The blue fire rose around Cael's boots, then accepted him. The world tilted. The dream hall vanished. Serelle fell into a sky made of sleeping flame. She landed on her knees in a palace that was and was not the palace above. Its walls were built from blue fire and black glass. Staircases curled into empty air. Dragon bones floated like moons in the distance. At the center lay Cael's dragon, enormous and dark, curled around a shattered cradle of crystal ribs. Glass chains pinned it to the floor. Serelle stood slowly. Cael appeared a few steps away, breathing hard, one hand pressed to his chest. In this dream place, he looked younger around the eyes, stripped of throne and court. Behind his armor, blue light pulsed where the chains ran through him too. The dragon opened one ember eye. Pain moved across Cael's face. "Ashrayan." The name shook the dream. Serelle turned to him. "Your dragon has a name. Of course it has a name. No one ever speaks it." Cael's silence answered. Serelle understood. A sleeping dragon without a spoken name was easier for the court to discuss, like a condition, a weakness, a problem of reign, not a living bond, not a being in pain. The dragon's eye moved to Serelle. A breath of blue fire crossed the dream floor, not burning, asking. Serelle stepped toward the shattered cradle. The dream rib mark beneath her collarbone glowed, pulling memories from the crystal ribs scattered around Ashrian's body. Queen Mareth's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. A Veyr carries fire. A dream rib carries what fire remembers. Cael looked at the chains. "Can you break them?" "I don't think they break by force." Varric's laughter echoed through the dream, though his body remained above. His voice came through the blue glass chains. "Correct, child. Break them and you break the dragon's sleep apart. Then he wakes mad, and the court will beg me to end him." The chains tightened. Ashrian's eye dimmed. Serelle flinched as pain cut across her ribs. Cael caught her arm, then released it the moment she steadied. Even here, inside a dream where his dragon was dying, he did not grip her like an answer. "What do you need?" he asked. The question nearly undid her. She looked at Ashrian, at the shattered cradle, at the glass chains carved with dead girls' names. "Witness," she said. Cael's brow furrowed. "Not worship. Not belief without proof. Witness. Your dragon was chained through memories the court made false. We have to return one true dream first." "Whose?" Serelle looked at the nearest chain. "Mira." The girl she had known. The girl crushed under the ribcage and erased from the dream registry. Not mine, Serelle whispered. Mira's. The dream shifted. A crystal shard floated toward them, glowing with the memory of a 16-year-old girl lying beneath the ribcage, eyes wide with terror but hands steady at her sides. Mira's voice trembled in the dream. I saw the dragon sheltering the cradle. I saw Serelle's mark before she ever knew it existed. Above her, Varric's staff touched the ribcage. The crystal bones lowered. Not because Mira's dream was false, because Varric forced the relic to crush the witness before she could name Serelle. The memory ended. Cael's face went pale. Serelle touched the chain carved with Mira's name. Mira of the West Nursery. Dream witnessed. Not false. Silenced before dawn. The chain cracked. Not fully. Enough for Ashrian to draw one deeper breath. Cael closed his eyes as that breath moved through him. Above, through the fading dream ceiling, Varric's voice sharpened. Majesty, what you see there is contamination. If she begins naming dead dreamers, she will turn your dragon into a grave. Cael opened his eyes. No, he said. His voice carried through the dream and into the hall above. She is turning the grave back into witness. The second chain brightened. Lisa. Serelle knew that name only from whispers. Another false princess. Another dawn judgment. She reached toward it, but Ashrian's eye flared. Not warning. Limit. The dream trembled around them. Serelle understood. If they opened too many at once, Varric would be right enough to weaponize it. The dragon was weak. Its memories had been starved and twisted for years. One dream first, she said. One witness first. Cael nodded. Mira. The cracked chain loosened further. In the hall above, blue fire rose around the ribcage. Serelle could feel the court watching, as Mira's name appeared across one crystal rib, no longer as false, but witnessed. Varric snarled, the sound losing elegance. You would risk a king's dragon for a dead nursery girl. Cael's reply came cold. I would risk my throne before I let you kill her twice. Ashrian's heartbeat strengthened once. Then the dream floor split beneath Serelle. A deeper memory opened under the shattered cradle. Not Mira's. Not Lysa's. Heir's. Serelle saw herself as an infant beneath the Crystal Dragon Ribcage, Queen Marith bending over her, and Ashrian's first breath entering her dreams. But behind the queen, Varric placed one hand on the cradle and whispered a command into the crystal. Let the child dream for the dragon. Let the king rule without needing her. The memory snapped shut before Serelle could understand. Cael had seen it too. His voice was barely a breath. What did he make you? The blue glass chains tightened around Ashrian again. Varric's voice thundered from above. Enough. The dream sky cracked. Serelle looked up and saw the dream hall through the broken blue light. Varric standing over the ribcage, both hands on the staff, preparing to drive its crystal tip into the central bone. Cael saw it too. If he strikes that rib, Serelle began. He kills the path back, Cael said. The dragon's heartbeat faltered. Serelle turned to Ashrian, the dragon's open eye fixed on her mark, not asking her to save him, asking whether she would remember what he had carried. She placed both hands on the shattered cradle. Then show them, she whispered. Not everything. Only what he made me. Ashrian exhaled blue fire. The dream exploded upward, and in the dream hall above, every crystal rib lit with the same sentence. The child was made to carry the king's sleep. The child was made to carry the king's sleep. The sentence burned across every crystal rib. For a moment, no one in the dream hall understood it. Then the meaning sank in. Not all at once. Not cleanly. Truth rarely entered a court like a blade. It entered like cold water under a door, touching every foot before anyone admitted the room was flooding. Serelle lay beneath the ribcage, one hand still pressed to the shattered cradle inside the dream. while her body remained visible in the hall above. Blue fire passed through her veins of light. Her dream rib mark glowed beneath her collarbone, like a small moon caught under skin. Cael stood inside the dream beside Ashrion, but the court could see his shadow through the crystal bones. The Dragon King, trapped between sleeping fire and waking horror. Lord Varric had frozen with the staff raised over the central rib. The crystal tip trembled, not from hesitation, from recognition. Cael's voice came through the ribcage, low and deadly. "Explain it." Varric lowered the staff slowly. "Majesty, dream relics speak in symbols." "Then explain the symbol." The blue glass chains around Ashrion's throat tightened as Varric's hand closed over the staff. "The ward's bloodline was used to stabilize your dragon's sleep. That is all." Serelle's breath stopped. "Used." Such a small word for a life stolen before it began. Cael looked at her inside the dream. His face was stripped of court now. No throne, no armor of command. Only the man beneath the king, staring at the girl who had been blamed for dreams that may never have belonged to her alone. "You carried it," he said. Serelle shook her head. "I didn't know." "I know." Those two words reached her more deeply than any defense before the court could have. Varric's voice sharpened above them. "She carried a necessary burden. Without the transfer, your dragon would have woken too soon, bound to a child outside the throne's control. The kingdom was not ready for a dragon king whose beast dreamed through a ward." Cael turned toward the sound. "So you made her a vessel. I made you king. You made my dragon sleep through her." Varric's expression hardened. "And you ruled because of it," the court murmured. There was the poison. If Cael condemned Varric too quickly, he condemned the foundation of his own reign. If he defended Serelle too openly, the court could say his dragon had never truly belonged to him. Varric had built the lie so every truth would wound the throne before it freed the victim. Serelle felt that trap settle around Cael, so she spoke before he could. "I will not be your accusation against him." Cael looked at her sharply. Serelle pushed herself upright inside the dream. The shattered crystal cradle cut her palms, but she did not let go. "You put his sleep inside me. You blamed me for dreaming it. You crushed every girl who saw too much of what you had done." Her voice shook. "But I will not become the proof that he was never king." The ribcage breathed. Ashrion's open eye brightened. Varric smiled faintly. "Noble, convenient. But your mercy does not change the bond. If the dream rib heir wakes the dragon fully, the beast will answer her first." A ripple passed through the court. Cael's jaw tightened. Serelle felt the fear in the hall shift toward her. Not pity now. Power. Claim. Rivalry. The moment the court saw her as the one who could wake the king's dragon, they began measuring whether she should be used, crowned, sealed, or killed. She had been unwanted when they thought she carried nothing. Now they feared she carried too much. Cael felt it too. He stepped closer to her inside the dream, but stopped before touching. "What do you choose?" Serelle nearly broke, not because she knew the answer, because he asked. She looked at Ashrion. The dragon was still chained, but one chain, the one named Mira, had cracked. Its breath was steadier now. Around them, the dream palace flickered with memories waiting in the crystal ribs. Lysa, Marith, Aven, Serelle. Too many to open all at once. "One dream," she said. Cael nodded. "One witness. One chain." Ashrion exhaled. The chain marked. Lysa brightened next. But Serelle shook her head. "Not yet." The dragon's eye turned toward her. She pointed to the chain marked Marith, Queen Marith, the dead queen whose line had hidden her. The woman Varric claimed had loved the dream rib bloodline too much. If the court was going to understand the burden, it needed the queen who made the choice before Varric twisted it. The chain trembled. Varric's staff struck the floor above. "Do not open that," Cael's voice cut through the hall. "Then it is exactly the dream we open." Serelle placed both hands on the Marith chain. The dream unfolded. Queen Mareth stood in the nursery beneath blue dawn, holding infant Serelle. Young Cael stood nearby, one hand on Ashrion's sleeping head. The queen was not afraid of the dragon. She was afraid of the men behind the glass. Varric waited beyond the screen with council lords. Mareth whispered to the child, "You were born where memory and fire meet. If they fear you, they will call you false. If they need you, they will call it duty." Young Cael looked up. "Will she wake Ashrion?" "When the time is right," Mareth said. "Not by owning him, by helping him remember what he dreams." The memory shifted. Varric entered after Cael was taken away. "The council will not accept a king whose dragon needs a ward." Mareth faced him. "Then teach the council humility." Varric smiled. "Humility does not hold thrones." The memory cut forward. Mareth dying, one hand pressed to the crystal ribcage, blood on her sleeve, Varric holding the staff. Mareth's voice weakened. "Do not make her carry what belongs to him." Varric bent close. "The kingdom needs him awake enough to rule and asleep enough to obey. She can bear the excess dream." Mareth tried to reach the cradle. Varric touched the staff to the ribcage. Blue fire tore from Ashrion's sleeping body and poured into the infant Serelle. The queen screamed. The memory shattered. Serelle collapsed backward inside the dream. Cael caught her before she struck the crystal floor. For one breath, his arms closed around her. Careful, fierce. Then he released enough to let her stand on her own. The court above had seen everything. No one spoke. Varric's face had gone pale, but not defeated. A queen's dying emotion is not law. Cael looked up through the crystal ribs. "No," he said, "but murder hidden as duty is treason." The word struck the dream hall. Treason. Varric's staff cracked further. The chain marked Mareth split apart. Ashrion drew a deep breath. The palace floor surged with blue fire, and Cael gasped as the breath entered him. For the first time in 12 years, the sleeping dragon lifted its head, not fully awake, but no longer buried. Serelle steadied herself against the shattered cradle. The burden in her chest felt lighter, but not gone. Varric had not only placed sleep inside her, he had tied it in knots through the ribcage, through the dead girls, through Cael's shame, through the court's fear. Varric knew it too. He lifted the broken staff with both hands. "If the king will not preserve his throne," he said, "then the throne must preserve itself." The crystal floor beneath the dream hall opened. Blue glass chains rose around every exit. The nobles screamed as the hall sealed itself shut. Varric's eyes burned with reflected dragonfire. "The ribcage will choose by dawn," he declared. "King or dream, rib heir. One bond survives." The Crystal Dragon Ribcage lowered around Serelle and Cael inside the dream, not as shield now, but as trial. Ashrion's half-waking eye turned toward both of them, and the court realized Varric had locked the Dragon King inside judgment with her. Varric had locked the Dragon King inside judgment with her. The dream hall vanished behind blue glass. Not fully. Serelle could still see the court above, like figures trapped under ice. Nobles pressed against sealed exits, guards striking uselessly at crystal chains, priestesses clutching empty bowls of dream, salt, and Varric, standing at the center with his broken staff, raised like a judge who had mistaken himself for law. Inside the dream, Serelle and Cael stood beneath the Crystal Dragon Ribcage. Ashrion lay before them, half awake and chained to a floor of sleeping fire. The great dragon's head was lifted now, one ember eye open, the other still sealed by blue glass. His breath shook the dream palace. Every exhale sent memories flickering through the crystal bones around them. Queen Mareth's hands, Mira's last dream, Lysa's unheard warning, infant Serelle beneath the ribs, young Cael reaching toward a dragon no one let him wake. Above, Varric's voice entered the dream through the chains. "One bond survives," he said. "King or dream, rib heir, fire or memory, throne or ward." The ribcage lowered around them, not crushing yet, measuring. Cael stepped between Serelle and the largest crystal rib. Ashrian snarled. The sound was weak, but sharp enough to make the blue glass chains tremble. Serelle grabbed Cael's arm. "Don't." His eyes stayed on the rib. "It will strike you first." "No," she said. "That is what he wants." Cael turned toward her. She could see the instinct in him. Protect, shield, take the blow. It should have comforted her. Instead, fear tightened under her ribs. If Cael made himself her wall, Varric would call it proof that the king's dragon had chosen her over the throne. If Serelle tried to carry the trial alone, she would become the vessel again. Varric had made every sacrifice look like rivalry. Serelle forced herself to breathe. "We cannot answer as king and heir." Cael's jaw tightened. "Then how?" The dream mark beneath her collarbone burned. "As witnesses." The ribcage paused, Ashrian's open eye fixed on her. Cael looked from the dragon to the crystal bones. "Witness what?" "The first dream bond," Serelle said. Varric's voice cut through the chains. "There is no first dream. Bond. There is royal fire. And there is dream. Blood that tried to claim it." Serelle ignored him. She turned toward Ashrian and placed one hand over her glowing mark. "Show only what was shared, not what can be owned." The dream palace went silent. Then Ashrian breathed. Blue fire spilled across the floor, not toward Serelle alone, not toward Cael alone, but between them. It formed an image of the old nursery before Varric's chains, before false judgments, before the ribcage became a death sentence. Young Cael stood beside infant Serelle's cradle. Queen Marith knelt between them, one hand on Cael's shoulder, one hand on the crystal rib above the sleeping baby. Ashrian curled around them both, not as a beast choosing a master, but as a guardian holding two halves of a single ancient right. Marith's voice filled the dream. "A Veyr carries fire forward. A dream. Rib carries fire backward. One wakes the dragon's body. One keeps the dragon's memories from devouring the waking mind." Young Cael looked at the baby. "So she is not before me?" Marith smiled sadly. "No, my sweet king. She is beside you in the dream. Or the dream becomes hunger." The image shifted. Varric stood behind the blue glass screen, listening. His face changed at the word beside. Not fear only. Calculation. The memory dissolved. The court above had seen it too. Through the crystal ceiling, Serelle heard murmurs turn to stunned silence. Cael's voice came low beside her. "He lied about the choice." "Yes." Varric struck his staff against the sealed floor above. "Sentiment. A queen's wish, shaped into dream." The ribcage answered before Serelle could. Every crystal bone lit with the same image. Ashrian's ribs opening over two children. Not one. Blue fire flowing forward through Cael, backward through Serelle, circling between them like breath. The trial had asked, king or heir? The dragon answered, both or neither whole. The largest chain around Ashrian's chest cracked. The dragon drew a deeper breath. Cael staggered as that breath entered him. Serelle reached to steady him, then stopped, remembering what he had done for her. "May I?" she asked. Something like wonder flickered through his pain. "Yes." She took his arm. The contact sent blue fire through both of them. Not romance. Not yet. Something older and more dangerous. A bond built before they knew each other. Stolen from both, now waking without asking whether the court approved. Varric's voice sharpened. "Do you see?" She touches him, and the dragon answers. "The throne is compromised." Cael looked upward through the crystal. "No. The throne was compromised when you made fear its foundation." Another chain cracked. The ribcage lifted slightly. Serelle felt a sudden pull from the remaining chains. Liza. Aven. Serelle. The dead girls and her own name. The trial could not end until one more buried witness returned. She looked at the chain marked Liza. This time, Ashrian did not stop her. Serelle reached. A dream opened. Lysa lay beneath the ribcage 5 years earlier. Older than Mira, her face bruised from resisting the guards. She did not cry. She whispered to the crystal bones. I saw the bridge. I saw the king and the ward inside the same breath. Varric leaned over her with the staff. Then you saw treason. No, Lysa said. I saw the only way he wakes without burning. The staff touched the rib. The bones descended. The dream ended before the crush. Serelle's hand shook violently against the chain. Cael's voice was near. Name her. Serelle swallowed. Lysa of the Eastern Ward. Dream witnessed, not false. She saw the shared breath and was killed before dawn. The Lysa chain split. Ashrian's second eye opened. The dream hall shook. Above, the crystal chains around the exits began to crack. Nobles stumbled as blue fire poured across the floor, forming the names Mira and Lysa into the marble. Varric looked suddenly older, not defeated, cornered. He lifted the staff again, but its crystal tip had nearly broken away. If I release the dragon, he said, voice rough, the memories will flood him. You do not know what royal dragons carry. War dreams, blood oaths, burned cities, dead queens. He will wake and become every horror his line has ever made. Cael turned toward Ashrian. For the first time, true fear crossed his face. Not of losing his throne, of waking his dragon into agony. Serelle felt the answer inside her mark. That is why Dream Rib existed, she said. Not to own the dragon, to help it remember without drowning. Varric laughed, but it broke halfway. And you think a girl who could barely survive dream salt can carry centuries of fire? Serelle looked at Ashrian, then at Cael. No, she said. Not alone. The ribcage breathed. Cael understood. He stepped beside her, not in front of her. Then not alone. Together, they placed their hands on the final chain around Ashrion's chest. The chain marked Serelle. Varric screamed, Do not open that! Blue fire surged. The dream beneath their hands cracked open, and Serelle saw the truth of her own life. Not a false princess, not a rival heir, not a vessel made to carry the king's sleep, but the last living dream rib heir, the bloodline born to stand beside dragonfire and make memory survivable. The chain shattered. Ashrian rose, and above them, the Crystal Dragon Ribcage began breathing dragonfire into the palace floor. Ashrian rose inside the dream. The whole palace rose with him, not the palace of black marble and silver banners above, but the older palace beneath it, the one made of sleeping fire, buried memories, and dragon breath sealed under crystal bone. Blue flame poured upward through the floor. The Crystal Dragon Ribcage expanded over Serelle's body in the dream hall, each rib widening like the chest of a living beast, taking its first full breath in centuries. Above, the court screamed. Below, inside the dream, Cael stood beside Serelle, with one hand still locked around the shattered chain that had carried her name. Ashrian towered before them, enormous and dark, wings unfurling through blue fire. His second eye had opened. Both burned like twin embers pulled from the first dawn. The dragon was awake, and in that awakening came everything Varric had feared. War, flame, blood, cities burning beneath royal banners, dragons falling into ash fields, queens screaming old oaths into dying skies, kings ordering fire because mercy had arrived too late. Every memory of the Veyr line rushed toward Ashrian at once, and the dragon staggered as if struck by 1,000 spears. Cael cried out. The memories tore through him, too. He dropped to one knee inside the dream, one hand braced against the burning floor. Serelle felt the force of it slam into her dream rib mark. Not all the memories entered her. That was the mercy. But their heat reached her ribs, testing whether she could stand beside it without becoming ash. Varric's voice thundered from above, triumphant and terrified. Look at him. I told you. Royal dragons do not wake gently. They wake carrying every fire their bloodline ever spilled. Ashrion roared. This time the roar shook both worlds. In the dream hall, the crystal chains around the exits cracked wider. Nobles fell to their knees. Blue dragonfire streamed across the floor and climbed the walls, showing flashes of old wars on every polished surface. The court saw burning cities and crowned men with fire in their hands. They saw the weight a royal dragon carried, and fear returned to their faces. Varric seized it. "This is why I chained him," he shouted. "This is why the ward had to carry the excess dream. Without restraint, the king becomes history's monster." Cael lifted his head. Pain had stripped him of every royal mask. Serelle saw the boy from the nursery inside him. The child told that his dragon would shame him. The young king taught that sleep was safer than truth. For one breath, he looked at Ashrion not as a ruler looking at power, but as a man watching the other half of his soul drown. Serelle moved toward the dragon. Cael caught her wrist. Not hard, afraid. "You cannot take all of it," he said. "I know. Serelle." His voice cracked around her name. She looked back at him. "I said not alone." Ashrion's memories surged again. Blue fire crashed against the dream palace walls. The shattered cradle behind them began to break apart, its crystal ribs singing in agony. Serelle pressed her free hand to her dream rib mark. It burned bright, but it did not consume her. "Dream. Rib does not carry the king's sleep," she whispered. That was Varric's lie. Cael forced himself to stand. "What does it carry?" She turned toward Ashrion's open eyes. "The shape that lets memory breathe." The ribcage above them answered. Its crystal bones opened wider and formed an arch over Ashrion's head. Serelle understood then. The ribcage had never been meant to crush dreamers. It had been made like a second chest for dragon memories too vast for one body to hold. Varric had turned shelter into punishment. She stepped beneath the arch and lifted both hands. "Not all at once," she said. The dragonfire slowed. "Not into me." Ashrion's eyes fixed on her. "Not into him alone." Cael stepped beside her. Together, they faced the flood. Serelle spoke the first law that rose from her blood. One memory, one witness, one breath. The crystal ribcage inhaled. The roaring memories narrowed. One image came forward. The oldest fire in Ashrion's blood. A battlefield where the first Veyr king burned an enemy city after surrender bells had already rung. The memory carried shame so deep it had curdled into rage. Ashrion shook beneath it. Cael watched, horror-struck. "My line did that." "Yes?" Serelle said. The word was not accusation. It was witness. Cael closed his eyes, then opened them again. "Then I witness it." The memory passed through the ribcage, through Serelle's dream rib mark, through Cael's living fire, and settled into the dream floor without devouring either of them. Ashrion drew one breath, then another. The dragon remained awake. Varric went silent, only for a moment. Then he raised the broken staff above the ribcage in the dream hall. If she can teach him to survive memory, then she can teach every dragon beneath the throne to answer her. Kill the dream, rib heir, and the king keeps his dragon. The court froze. The old fear returned. Power always tempted frightened people to choose murder before humility. Several guards looked toward Serelle's body beneath the ribcage. Cael saw them. His voice came through both worlds. "Touch her and I burn the hand from its bone." No one moved. Varric smiled coldly. "There. The king threatens his own court for her. The bond has already turned him." Serelle turned sharply. "No." Her voice struck the dream hall through every crystal rib. "He is not turned. He is choosing." The ribcage breathed dragonfire into the palace floor. Blue flames formed words across the black marble for all to see. Choice is not corruption. Varric's staff split further. Cael stepped forward inside the dream and placed one hand on Ashrion's neck. The dragon trembled beneath his touch, but did not collapse. I choose the truth of my dragon. I choose the memories you buried. I choose the dream. Rib heir not as my master, not as my rival, but as witness. The court heard. The palace heard. Ashrian heard. The dragon lowered his vast head until his brow touched Cael's shoulder. Blue fire wrapped around them both, not as chains now, but as breath. Serelle felt joy rise too quickly, and fear followed it. Varric was not done. His eyes had gone bright with desperation. Then let the final dream judge you both. He drove the broken staff into the central crystal rib. The sound was like a heart cracking. Serelle's body in the hall arched beneath the ribcage. Inside the dream, the floor split open, revealing one last buried memory beneath all the others. Queen Mareth's final command, sealed in blood and crystal, hidden even from Ashrian. Varric laughed once, breathless. Open that, and you will learn why your precious queen begged me to keep the dragon asleep. Cael stiffened. Serelle reached for the memory before fear could stop her. The ribcage flared blue-white. A vision opened. Queen Mareth stood dying beside the Crystal Dragon Ribcage, one hand on infant Serelle's cradle, one hand on young Cael's sleeping brow. Varric stood before her with the staff, waiting. Mareth whispered, "If they wake him without her, he burns from memory. If they bind her beneath him, she dies from sleep. Promise me they will stand together." Varric leaned close. "I promise," he said. Then he turned to the council behind him. "Record her words as warning. The dream, Rib heir must be sealed." The vision shattered. The lie broke with it. The final chain around Ashrian's heart dissolved. In the dream hall above, the Crystal Dragon Ribcage rose fully from Serelle's body. No longer a cage, no longer a sentence, but a living crown of crystal breath. Ashrian spread his wings inside the dream, and Dragon King Cael Veyr's dragon woke completely. Dragon King Cael Veyr's dragon woke completely. Ashrian rose inside the dream with wings wide enough to eclipse the sleeping palace. Blue fire poured from his scales, not wild now, not devouring, but alive with memory that could finally breathe. Every chain around his throat, chest, and wings dissolved into crystal dust. The names carved into them, Mira, Lysa, Mareth, Aven. Serelle lifted free and burned across the dream sky like stars returned to their rightful places. In the dream hall above, the Crystal Dragon Ribcage rose fully from Serelle's body. The court stumbled backward as the relic expanded over the black marble, each crystal rib glowing with blue-white dragonfire. It no longer looked like a cage. It looked like the open chest of a living guardian, breathing over the girl it had once been ordered to crush. Serelle opened her eyes. For a moment, she could not move. Dream salt still clung to her blood. The dream rib mark beneath her collarbone burned like a second heartbeat. She felt Ashrian's memories at the edge of her body, vast and ancient, but no longer forced into her alone. Beside her in the dream, Cael stood with one hand on Ashrian's neck. The dragon lowered his head, not to Serelle first, not to Cael first, to both. A breath of blue fire passed between them and settled into the crystal floor. The court saw it through the ribcage. Varric saw it too. His broken staff lay smoking in his hands, the crystal tip split open and empty. For the first time, he looked not sorrowful, not wise, not necessary, only afraid. Cael stepped out of the dream first. His body in the hall straightened, as if waking from years of burial. Behind him, Ashrian's full shadow rose at last, massive, black and blue-flamed, wings spreading across the dream hall wall. Nobles fell to their knees, some from terror, some from awe, some because their legs simply failed beneath the sight of a dragon king made whole. Varric staggered back. "Majesty, listen to me." Cael's eyes burned ember gold. "I have listened to you for 12 years. I kept the beast from madness." You kept him from memory. I kept your throne stable. You kept it ignorant. The words struck harder than flame. Varric looked toward the nobles. And will you all kneel to this? A king whose dragon wakes through a ward's blood? A throne that needs a dream rib girl to breathe? Serelle pushed herself upright beneath the ribcage. Her body shook, but she stood. I am not his breath, she said. The hall turned toward her. I am not his keeper, not his rival, not the vessel you made when you stole his sleep and forced it into my dreams. The crystal ribs brightened. I am witness. Ashrion's shadow lowered its great head behind Cael. Serelle's voice grew steadier. Mira was witness. Lysa was witness. Queen Marith was witness. You called us false because the truth made the throne less simple. Varric's mouth twisted. Simple thrones survive. No, Cael said. Honest ones do. The Crystal Dragon Ribcage breathed once. Blue fire spread across the floor, forming the names of the dead girls where every noble could see them. Mira of the West Nursery, Lysa of the Eastern Ward, Queen Marith, Serelle Aven. Then the fire added one more line. Dreams, witnessed, not false. The court went silent. Varric raised his hands. A relic cannot sentence me. No, Serelle said softly. It can remember you, the ribcage answered. A vision opened across every crystal bone. Varric as a younger man, altering the dream registry after Mira died. Varric pressing the staff against Lisa's ribcage before dawn. Varric taking Queen Marith's final plea and twisting it into a warning. Varric placing Serelle's name on a chain before her judgment even began. The court watched the pattern unfold. Not one mistake, not one necessary burden. A system. When the vision ended, Varric stood alone in the center of the hall, surrounded by the blue fire of every dream he had buried. Cael faced the guards. Seize him! This time, they obeyed. Varric did not fight at first. Then one guard touched his arm, and his calm shattered. Without me, the dragon memories will overwhelm him. Without me, she becomes the only bridge. You will hand your kingdom to a girl who slept under stairs. Serelle flinched. Cael saw it. His voice turned colder. She slept under stairs because men like you built palaces over stolen rooms. The guards forced Varric to his knees. Serelle looked at the ribcage, then at Ashrion's shadow, then at the names glowing in the floor. Do not execute him tonight. A wave of shock moved through the hall. Varric laughed once, bitter and breathless. Mercy from the ward? No, Serelle said. Witness. His smile faded. She stepped closer, careful on shaking legs. You will hear every dream you called false. Mira's, Lysa's, Marith's, mine. Every girl placed beneath this ribcage. Every memory you altered. Every record you erased. Varric's face drained of color. That was the punishment he understood. Death would make him clean. Witness would make him listen. Cael nodded. Lord Varric is stripped of council authority, dream, law voice, and access to the dream registry. At dawn, the first witness hearing begins beneath the ribcage he corrupted. The Crystal Dragon Ribcage pulsed blue. The sentence entered the bones. Varric was dragged away, not to cheers, not to triumph, but to silence heavy enough to make even the cruelest nobles lower their eyes. When the doors closed behind him, the hall remained uncertain. The dragon had woken. The lie had broken. But Serelle knew broken lies left dangerous pieces. A noblewoman whispered. And the dream? Rib heir? There it was. The next cage. Not punishment now. Usefulness. Serelle felt every gaze turn toward her. Fear, hunger, calculation, reverence. The same court that had watched her nearly crushed beneath crystal bones was already wondering how to place her beside the throne, beneath the throne, behind the throne anywhere her power could be named useful. before it could be named hers. Cael turned to her. He did not answer for her. That mattered. Serelle stood beneath the open ribcage, dream salt drying on her lashes, the silver mark glowing at her throat. I will not carry the king's sleep. Asrian's shadow watched her. I will not be sealed under crystal when the court is afraid. I will not be used to prove Cael weak, or to make him whole faster than truth can bear. Cael's expression softened, but only slightly. Enough for her to see the man inside the king. Serelle continued. The dream rib line exists to witness dragon memory, not to be fed to it. If Asrian wakes, he wakes with both of us choosing the bond. Not because Varric chained us together. The ribcage brightened. Cael stepped beside her, not in front. The dream registry will be reopened, he said. Every girl judged false beneath this relic will be reviewed. The ribcage is no longer an execution rite. It is a witness chamber. No dreamer enters it by punishment. A lord protested. Majesty, dragon memory is dangerous. Cael looked at Asrian's shadow, then at Serelle. Yes, he said. So is ruling without it. No one answered. Dawn reached the high eastern windows. The first light touched the crystal ribs, turning blue fire silver. The relic expanded once more, then settled above the black stone bed, open and still, no longer hungry for victims. The names on the floor remained. Mira, Lysa, Marith, Serelle. Not erased, not false. Witnessed. Cael turned to Serelle quietly. Can you walk? She almost laughed, but the sound would have hurt. I can try. He offered his hand. He did not take hers. After everything, that small restraint nearly broke her more than any dream had. Serelle looked at his hand, then at Asrian's shadow behind him. The dragon's ember eyes were open now, tired, but alive. Not staring at her as a master, not staring at Cael as property, watching both of them as if the sky it had lost might be shared again. She placed her fingers in Cael's palm. By choice, his hand closed gently around hers. Together, they walked from beneath the Crystal Dragon Ribcage as the court parted. No one mocked her cast-off gown. No one called her false. No one dared speak the word ward as if it meant unwanted. At the threshold, Serelle paused and looked back. The ribcage breathed once. A soft breath, a guardian's breath. Cael stood beside her. What did it say? Serelle listened, not with ears, with the silver mark beneath her collarbone. It says, dreams remember who sheltered them. Cael bowed his head. Outside, dawn spread over the palace towers, and deep beneath the stone, Asrian's heartbeat answered the morning. Serelle Aven had entered the dream hall as an unwanted royal ward accused of false dreams. She left as the last dream rib heir, the girl the crystal bones protected, the witness who woke the Dragon King's sleeping dragon, restored the names of the dreamers Varric had crushed, and proved that love was not a bond made by possession. It was a breath shared freely between fire and memory,